I've watched buyers walk into this market thinking it still works the way it did 5 years ago, and it doesn't. If you're thinking about moving to Sherman, or you already live here and you're watching all this construction happen around you, I want you to hear the real version, not the version on the billboards. The version I see every single week with actual buyers, actual deals, and actual people getting caught off guard. If you're new here, I'm Amanda Phillips, a local realtor and your connection to the Sherman community. I help people every day with real estate decisions. If you need help or have questions, you can text me or give me a call. A few months back, I had a couple come in from out of state. Sweet people. They'd done their homework, they had a lender lined up, they knew their budget down to the dollar. What surprised them wasn't a shortage of houses. There's actually plenty of inventory right now, more than there's been in years. And I made sure they knew that up front so they didn't feel rushed into settling on the wrong home. What caught them off guard was new construction. They found a spec home they loved in a new community, and the builder was running a rate buy down along with a chunk of closing costs covered, but only on homes finishing within a specific window. They wanted a weekend to think it over, the way they had the last time they bought a house. By Monday, that specific home was already under contract, and the incentive on the next available home in that phase wasn't nearly as good. It wasn't that someone outbid them. Nobody was competing for that house. The deal itself had an expiration date, and they didn't know builder incentives even worked that way. Nobody had told them Sherman's new construction runs on a different clock than the resale market does. That's the part that gets me. It wasn't that they made a bad decision, it's that they didn't know there was a clock running at all. We regrouped. I walked them through how builders actually price and incentivize homes in a growing market, phase by phase, deal by deal. 2 weeks later, we found another new build with a similar incentive, and this time they didn't wait. They wrote the offer within 48 hours and locked it in before it changed. Same couple, same budget, same search. And when we ran the numbers side by side, that new build actually landed lower than what they'd have paid for a comparable resale home nearby. The only thing that changed was they finally understood which clock they were actually racing, and it worked in their favor. Here's what's actually driving all of this. Sherman has landed some serious manufacturing investment over the last several years, and that kind of investment doesn't just create a handful of jobs, it creates thousands of them. And every one of those jobs comes with a person, and often a family, who needs somewhere to live. Builders saw that coming before most buyers did. That's why you're seeing new construction going up in every direction you drive. And here's something that surprises a lot of people walking into this market. Inventory overall has actually grown, which means more choices, not fewer, if you're looking at existing homes. The urgency isn't coming from a shortage, it's coming from the incentives. Builders are sitting on finished and near-finished spec homes, and a lot of them are offering serious deals right now to move that inventory. Things like rate buy-downs, covered closing costs, or design credits. Those incentives are almost always tied to a specific home, a specific phase, or a specific closing window. And once that window closes, the deal disappears, even if the house is still standing there. That's the piece most buyers never think to ask about. A lot of people wait to get pre-approved until they've already found a house they love, because that's how it used to work with resale homes. With a new construction incentive, it's backwards. You need to already know your numbers before you find the house, because the moment the right deal shows up, you may only have days to act on it, not weeks. There's also a piece almost nobody explains about how builders price a community over time. The first phase of a new community is usually priced lower than the third or fourth phase because the builder raises prices as the community fills in and proves out. So even without any competition for the house itself, waiting can still cost you real money, just on a different timeline than most buyers expect. And here's the part that really catches people off guard. With incentives factored in, some of these new builds are landing at a lower final price than comparable resale homes just down the street. That flips the assumption most buyers walk in with completely. People still expect new construction to automatically cost more than an older home, and right now in Sherman, that isn't always true. Sometimes the newer house with the incentive ends up being the better financial move, not just the newer one. And it's not just about moving fast, it's about knowing what you're actually looking at when you tour. A house that shows beautifully but sits 2 streets over from a lot that's about to break ground for the next phase is going to feel very different to live in 18 months from now than it does the day you tour it. That's not a reason to avoid new growth areas. It's a reason to ask the right questions before you write an offer. Questions most out-of-town buyers don't even know to ask because they've never bought in a market that works quite like this one. None of this means you shouldn't move here. It means the strategy has to change from what it used to be, and most people moving to Sherman right now don't know that yet. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Sherman's perfect because it isn't. Growth this fast comes with friction, and you deserve to hear that plainly instead of finding out after you've already signed. Some pockets of the city feel like an active construction zone right now, with equipment running and roads getting rebuilt around new development. Here's the part that actually surprises people though. If you're buying resale right now, you're probably not walking into a bidding war. Inventory has opened up, and that's genuinely good news if you want time to think things through on an existing home. But if you're chasing a builder incentive on new construction, that same patience can cost you. Those deals move fast because they're time-bound by design. And here's something worth saying plainly. Just because a deal is time-bound doesn't mean it's automatically the right house for you. When there's real pressure to move fast, it's easy to talk yourself into a home because the incentive is good, not because the home actually fits your life. The fix isn't ignoring the urgency because the urgency is real. The fix is knowing your must-haves clearly enough ahead of time that you can move fast on the right house instead of just the fastest deal. The reason builders are offering incentives this aggressive is the same reason this is a genuinely good place to plant roots right now. Companies didn't invest this kind of money into a city that's dying, and builders don't build this much inventory in a market they don't believe in long term. The deals on the table right now are often the best pricing this market will see before it catches up to the growth already happening around it. I've been doing this in Sherman for 18 years. I watched this town before anybody outside of it was paying attention, and I'm watching it now while everybody suddenly wants in. The buyers who do well in a market like this aren't the ones who are the smartest or the luckiest. They're the ones who had someone in their corner who already knew what was coming. Someone who could tell them which builder was about to release a new phase, which incentives were about to expire, and how to move on the right deal before it disappeared. I think about that couple a lot. Not because the story has a perfect ending, but because it almost didn't. They almost gave up and looked somewhere else entirely. One conversation changed that, because it wasn't about pushing them toward a house. It was about giving them the real picture so they could make their own decisions with their eyes open. That's also why I don't do this the way a lot of agents do, where you call once and then get handed off to whoever's next in line. When you call me, you're getting the same person who's been watching this market shift in real time, week over week, not someone reading you numbers off a website that's already out of date. That's the whole reason I do what I do. Not to sell you a house, to make sure you don't get run over by a market that's moving faster than you expected, and to make sure that when you do buy here, you're doing it with the same information I'd want for my own family. If you're thinking about a move to Sherman, or you already live here and you're wondering what all this growth means for your own home's values, don't try to piece it together from a YouTube comment section or a Facebook group. Give me a call or shoot me a text. I'll walk you through exactly what's happening in this market right now. No pressure, no sales pitch. Just the same honest picture I gave that couple and the same one I've given you today. And if you want to get a real feel for what it's actually like living here day to day, not just the market side of it, I've got a couple videos up on your screen right now that walk through exactly that. Go ahead and tap on those next.